Hello, and welcome to Lopes on Movies. My name is Joey Lopes, and today I am joined by Kyle.
Hello.
And Connor.
Hello.
Hey, fellas, how you doing? What's going on today? Don't everybody speak up at once.
I have nothing to say. It's just another week of COVID life. What do you expect?
It's a pretty innocuous question. You could have said anything.
Yeah. I think we were both waiting for one of us to say something, and then the other didn't. You know, the University of Delaware Blue Hens are playing football again, right, Kyle?
Yeah.
Like they shut out Maine.
They crushed them.
Yeah, they're playing football in the late winter spring, which is kind of weird, but also kind of cool.
Yeah, we all love football here on Lopes on Movies. This is some of our favorite football movies. Remember the Titans? That's a football movie.
That's a football movie. Yep. Remember the one?
Football.
The replacements. The
replacements. Yeah, that's the one. The other one I was thinking of. Are there any others? Football doesn't seem to be like a big movie.
The longest yard.
The longest yard. Yeah, that's
the Burt Reynolds one and the Adam Sandler one.
Yeah, right.
That counts as two.
That does count as two.
Okay. So baseball is a better sport for movies. I think that's a proven fact.
Yeah. Okay.
You got classic baseball movies like Field of Dreams. Bull Durham. It translates better to cinema.
Bull Durham cannot be the second best baseball movie.
I mean, it might be. Connor, you have some baseball movies, right? You like baseball movies.
I do. I like baseball movies. Yeah, I mean, it's a good one. The Natural. For Love of the
Redford.
Game. Robert Redford, certainly. For Love of the Game.
Moneyball.
Moneyball. It's a good movie.
Love Moneyball. Yeah, there's tons. There's tons. Moneyball's a little different than the others because Moneyball's more like about, I don't know, like this, but behind baseball rather than like that players that are playing the game.
It's still a baseball. It's still a baseball.
It still is.
I remember seeing Moneyball with my father, and he said he did not like it at all, and I was very shocked.
What? He didn't like it at all? I thought you were going to say that my dad really liked it as a person who's worked in stats his whole life and someone who is like, because that's what your dad did for so long, and then he just hated it? Like, what?
So here's the thing, Connor. He loves the stats, but he hates the stories behind stats.
That's one of my favorite Kyle stories, that his dad hated Moneyball.
Wow, I'm shocked.
Yeah. I also saw the film with my father, but he enjoyed it quite a bit. So two very different experiences of seeing Moneyball with our parents.
Yeah, and that movie kind of changed my life. I love that movie. Like
it changed your life?
It did kind of. Like, and if you really think about it, everything nowadays, like my job, most people's jobs, it's all data driven, and they were doing something with data in sports, and now that's done in every single sport. It's done in every single major business. Data is the key to everything.
Movies are made with data now.
And movies are made with data, for better or worse.
Oh man,
and mostly worse.
There's a video game joke I really want to make, but it's not appropriate.
Different podcast.
It's not appropriate for Lopes on Movies. Speaking of movies, we do have a couple of things that we can talk about recent releases and kind of stuff that's going on in the movie world. I guess I don't even know why we're talking about this. The first thing, this has just been a big topic on the internet, is Space Jam 2.
Yeah.
They just released I think it released a trailer. I didn't watch it. I don't know. There is a trailer. LeBron's in it. And, the Looney Tunes are back this time with LeBron instead of Michael Jordan. So this means nothing to me. And, I'm like a, later generation millennial, right? Like that's like sort of like the tail end of the millennial generation.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently, like, our generation just loves Space Jam, and that's something that just completely passed me by. I don't understand that at all. But it's been like a thing on the internet for a long time, of people being like insanely nostalgic about Space Jam, and I just never understood it. But apparently, it's powerful enough to generate a sequel. So I'm curious if you guys have another perspective on that, because it's completely bewildering to me.
Yeah, I mean, Kyle and I are a little older than you, but like barely. But I guess you just missed this, but they were drilling Space Jam into us as kids.
Oh, yeah.
And then it became like this is cool kind of thing. Like, I remember if there was like an indoor recess because it rained or something, or if it was a teacher was bored or something, and they would just wanted to pacify the the kids for a while. They'd put on like Space Jam, and everybody just universally decided that this is just the greatest thing
Yeah.
ever. And I never really understood that. Like I wasn't really into it. I probably seen it a ton of times, all in school.
That's crazy. Yeah.
But and I was telling you guys that if anyone remembers this, where they used to just fill all the kids from all the different classrooms into like the one common area between the classrooms.
Mm-hmm.
They'd wheel out an old CRT TV that's tiny with horrible sound, and they just put on like Space Jam or whatever, something like that, and all of us would just sit there in a darkened room,
Just sit on the carpet for like an hour.
on the
and a half.
carpet. Hundreds of kids just sitting there.
You know what? I'm having flashbacks to this happening, and I think I remember watching one of the Babe movies that way,
yeah.
and I distinctly remember this because there was a bunch of teachers or whatever that would like that thought it was really funny that I remembered what the equator is or whatever.
It is pretty funny. I mean,
It's a very vivid memory for some reason.
Yep.
But I digress. So I apparently they never decided to show our class Space Jam because that I've never seen it.
That's
Bill
a shame.
Murray's in it, isn't he?
Yeah.
Right?
He is.
That, like I learned that at some point when I was probably like in high school, and I was like, "What?"
For
He
most of
is?
my childhood, because I didn't know who Bill Murray was at the time, I thought Bill Murray was Larry Bird in this movie. And that's wrong.
Yeah, that's not right.
Yeah, that's incorrect.
Yeah. The other thing was Newman from Seinfeld.
Oh,
Wayne
yeah, that's
Knight.
right.
Oh, is
That's
Yeah.
he
right.
really in it?
Yeah,
Oh,
he was
crap.
in it. Yep. Danny DeVito's in it. They pretty much got as many people as possible, like that people would like, that are kind of goofy,
Yeah.
Mhm.
that were big in the 90s in this. And Michael Jordan. It's basically a giant commercial for Michael Jordan is what
Oh,
Space Jam
100%.
is. And
Right.
what Space Jam 2 is going to be a giant commercial for LeBron.
Most
I
likely.
imagine.
Not just LeBron. It's also a commercial for the Warner Brothers intellectual property.
Yeah.
I have a
too.
feeling there will be a lot more advertisements in this new movie.
Yeah, it's gonna.
And there
be
were so many in the original Space
I know.
Jam.
It's going to be like LeBron like drinking a Coke on the sidelines or something like that.
Right. Yeah, that'll be good. Yeah, I mean, if there's one like dumb thing I'm gonna plant my flag on for the Space Jam discourse, it's expressing disappointment that they're going with 3D animated Looney Tunes instead of traditionally animated 2D.
Oh, yeah, that does
characters.
suck.
Yeah, like I mean, I have no stake in the Space Jam game. I'm not going to see the movie. I do not
Yes,
care.
you are.
But I like 2D animation, and this could have been a nice opportunity for some good high quality 2D animation, like I assume is in the original Space Jam. But,
Visually, the original Space
nevertheless.
Jam looks pretty good.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
what
It's
can
just
you do?
funny that they made another Space Jam in a time when like no one cares about Looney Tunes. Like,
Like 30 years later.
Yeah.
Like we were watching reruns of Looney Tunes because they played them a lot when we were growing up. So
Yeah.
we had more of a knowledge and like knew all these characters, but they don't
Yeah.
play this anymore, like at all. So kids
Yeah.
like are just watching it because they might know of Space Jam, and now LeBron is in it. Maybe.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. This is not
the
a movie
discourse
for
ar-
children. This
The
is a
discourse
movie
around
for
it, yeah. This
Yeah,
is a movie for like man children, is what it
Mm.
is.
aging millennials nostalgia. That's all it is.
Yeah. So, yeah, I guess we were part of that, but they're making another one, and the stuff around it is obviously very. It's just. What can you?
I
say?
wash my hands of Space Jam discourse from this day forward. I'm moving on with my life. Connor,
Yeah, okay.
how about you tell us a little bit about something I guess tangentially related to, cartoons, Looney Tunes, old cartoons from back in the day. A
Yeah,
movie that you saw a little bit of, right?
Yeah. Speaking of old cartoons that no one who is young nowadays cares about. I watched some of the new Tom and Jerry movie that came out right on HBO Max. It's the
Why,
one that they're-
Connor?
I don't know. I didn't want. I knew it would be bad. But it, I somehow found myself watching it, and it's actually worse than you could possibly imagine. Like
Aw.
it's pathetic in
That's a
all
shame.
ways,
Oh,
and
that's a
it's
shame.
like it's totally something that like I don't think anyone would enjoy. Children, like no one. The
I
one
will
thing
say there's
it's
one thing I enjoyed about the Tom and Jerry movie, which is that it's being kind of touted as like the movie to bring back movie theaters
Oh yeah.
because like movie theaters are reopening in like New York around this
yes,
time, and like Tom and Jerry is like the first big release
yep.
to be coming out. It's like, oh man, just
hmm
close all the movie theaters if this is all you got.
Yeah, this is the death rattle from of movies. And it like I was laughing like at the movie at some parts because with Michael Pena is in it, and
Oh, of course he is.
he's just oh yeah. I mean, if you had to guess who was in this movie, I mean Michael Pena, he's at the top of the list, like obviously.
Wait,
He,
why is that obvious? I'm
because
okay.
he was also in another horrible movie that I watched, which is like a different thing, but it's a similar vein. That Fantasy Island movie. He was also in
Oh
that
yeah,
playing a
right.
very similar role, which is just like an over the top like person who's just hamming it up in every scene that he's in. So he's having a great time just being
Let's
goofy.
just say it though. Michael Pena sucks.
Whoa, Kyle, I would not go there.
I mean, he's one of those actors that I've decided arbitrarily I don't like. Like if I hear Michael Pena's in a movie, I'm like, I'm probably not going to like this.
I
But
will
not
say
for
I don't
any-
think
not
I've
for any
liked
reason.
any movies that I've seen him in.
I'm sure there's definitely at least one, but from now on, the only thing I can think of when I think of Michael Pena is Collateral Beauty.
Exactly. Yes.
So
Yeah. Oh yes,
he's tainted for life.
Another regular that shows up in these kind of movies like Tom and Jerry. They're gonna make a movie that's a live action movie with, you know, Tom and Jerry, the old cartoon. Ken Jeong is in it,
Oh,
of
yes.
course.
Of course.
Oh yeah.
Yep. Yep. And he plays an angry chef in this one.
Man, whatever happened to him?
Well, I think people just got just tired of that. I think he's on like some kind of like America's Got Dancing Ability show or America's Got.
I think he's on The Masked Singer.
That's what it is.
Oh, I
yeah,
could
The
see that.
Masked
Yeah,
Singer.
he
Masked
had
Dancer.
he had a show, didn't he? Right,
Yeah.
he was Dr. Ken or whatever it was.
Well, the thing that's amazing about Ken Jeong is that he is a doctor and
Yeah.
he's like a brilliant person. He's a licensed physician.
Oh
And
wow.
he just had this like late career like as an actor, and then he became huge. He was obviously really funny in those Hangover movies that people loved, and then he just kind of kept doing the same thing again and again, using him in that role.
Yep.
But he's a brilliant
Wow.
guy. Like,
That's
but
wild.
yeah. Oh, and
I
then
had no idea.
yeah. Well, there you go. Now you know something about him. And the other person who would be perfect for this kind of Tom and Jerry movie is Chloe Grace Moretz. The
Oh
girl
yeah,
with the
yeah. I
confusing
remember
name.
seeing her in like a trailer for
Yeah.
for the movie. Yeah.
Yeah, she's in it. So she's the one that's kind of like trying to befriend Tom and Jerry. Like, Tom and Jerry, you guys are wrecking the hotel. You need to shape up. Like, and almost delivers the lines that way. Like, this was a weekend for her, and
Right.
it was they filmed it in New York. It was probably not difficult for anyone to get there. They probably all live in New York. Whatever. Got to shoot during the day.
Let me ask you, Connor. So from what you watched of the Tom and Jerry movie, does it ever get to like the heights of violence that the original Tom and Jerry gets to? And I know I already know the answer is no, because there's an episode of Tom and Jerry where like Tom gets guillotined.
Yeah. So that was one thing. That's exactly one of the things that I'm like was thinking about during like watching it. Like, what kid nowadays that was the audience for Tom and Jerry would want to watch the original Tom and Jerry? So they had to like, they totally brought it down to like just such silly like nonsense cat chasing mouse stuff. But the old Tom and Jerry was brutal. Like the Simpsons made bits off of, with Itchy and Scratchy where
Yeah.
Itchy would kill Scratchy in every single episode, and the children would just
In horrifying
like,
ways. Yeah.
Yeah, but the kids would just laugh like in like
Yeah. Yeah, and it was great. But like the real Tom and Jerry, like I mean, obviously Itchy and Scratchy is exaggerated, but it's really not that far off in terms of.
No, it's not. Yeah, so
what's in there.
it's nothing like that. Yeah.
Oh,
So
man.
no,
It's too bad.
That's a shame.
This is a pass.
Well, that's a shame, Connor. I was really excited to watch the Tom and Jerry movie on HBO Max, but
And
now
I didn't finish it.
will,
I didn't finish it,
refrain.
by the way, but I do know I know how it ends, even though I didn't watch the ending and I didn't read up how it ended. But I'm sure I know.
All right, we got 2 more things that we want to get to today. So Connor, you give us your next thing, and then we'll transition to the last thing, and then we'll be done with this episode.
Sounds good. So there's one other thing on HBO Max that I watched pretty recently, and this one I actually thought was kind of good, but I have some things to say about it, and it's the Tiger Woods documentary.
Yes.
Yeah, so I don't know if you know anything about this, but it's kind of crazy coincidence or however you want to say it, that it came out very close around Tiger Woods' latest accident that happened, which is eerily timed. So that's like fresh in your mind, and I watched it after that. But yeah, so it's 2 parts. The first part, Tiger Woods, it's his rise to prominence as someone that everyone knew was going to be great before he ever played a round as a professional.
Mm-hmm.
It was mostly the first part. It was mostly about his relationship with his father, Earl, and it was very fascinating. So Tiger was basically, from when he was an infant, he idolized his father. They had like almost a friendship as he got older, rather than like a father-son dynamic. Earl did some very questionable things that Tiger saw growing up, and then it really goes into how Earl Woods really manufactured Tiger through a lot of very questionable and like borderline and maybe like straight up abusive ways, like restricting his personal life, toughening him up while they're playing, like hitting his ball or something, or hitting him while he's like lining up for a shot or something, or making a lot of noise like all the time. But then there's worse things too. Also controlling his professional appearance in the media. More things than that. There's lots of interviews from like his past girlfriends, like when he was growing up, people that knew him from like their club when they were going. It goes into his career success. It goes into his ownage of Phil Mickelson. When right from the
I guess I'm not watching this movie.
Oh, I know. Kyle is a lefty golfer.
You lefties
so
got to stick together, yeah.
Exactly.
That's right.
I can't watch a movie that hates on the great Phil.
It's that like part where they're going after Phil is like it almost comes like right out of the documentary, because it's like the whole thing is like very trying to really dig into Tiger's like mental status and why he's doing things the way he are, and then it just like cuts off and it's just like Tiger owned Phil. He was like, he got into Phil's head. Phil was like, Tiger hated Phil because he didn't work as hard as him. Like, and it's just like, oh wow, this is just like such Phil slander. And then like Phil never gets redeemed throughout the rest of the thing. So anybody
they
who's
never contacted Phil to have a
no, definitely not. So if anyone ever watches this and hasn't known golf, they'll just think that Phil is just some golfer who stinks, and just like Tiger just owned him. He never did anything ever again.
Well, that's totally true. I don't know what you're talking about.
I mean, all right, well, this is not about him. But okay, so then the second part is where it gets a little more dicey, obviously. So it goes into his first big accident outside of his house, and which followed, like it happened around like Thanksgiving, and followed by his many, many affairs. So they have interviews with people. His first mistress was interviewed in this, and she hasn't really spoken much in years. So the thing is, I didn't really learn anything new from this, and I just, because I know a lot about golf. I know a lot about, we're golfers. We're fans of Tiger as the player. At least I am. I don't know about you guys. His tenacity, competitiveness, like his style. He was just like cool. He's cool to watch.
Yeah, of course.
But like, even with like all those things, there's still a few things that I just couldn't get out of my mind after watching it. The first being that the doc doesn't really shy away from Tiger's controversies, but it does it in kind of way that feels like it's excusing them, which I think is good to give context for maybe why he acted the way he did or why he was brought up. But he does have more dirt on his hands, I would say, than it lets on. I guess, and then the other thing is that I just don't think that the Tiger Woods story is over. And like part of that is like the recent accident and like everything going on. The doc kind of finishes up like around his last major victory, which was obviously very cool that he came back from that, but it just still doesn't feel like an ending. Like you get a sense that he's in a better place and he's coming back from his, issues with, he was like pulled over for like, he got addicted to painkillers and stuff, but there's still a lot of mystery around Tiger Woods and stuff like that. And there's also his son is getting big into golf now, and he looks like he has like tremendous potential. So there's something there too. I just can't help if I think that there's more there. So you obviously can't blame the filmmakers for you know, they're not going to realize that something huge is going to happen like right after that, which is an accident that we still don't really know too much about, really. I guess like it's just very
a lot of mysteries around what's going on with Tiger.
The whole Tiger person is interesting, but as a doc, it just didn't feel like a collective story to me. But maybe that's just because I know too much about the story already. So it'd be interesting someone who's maybe doesn't know as much about golf or Tiger Woods or would watch it, how they would get from. But then at that point, would they even be interested in this? Like who, like, you know what I mean? So it's good. There's some good things with it. I'd recommend it, I guess. But
very nice, very nice. Thank you for the recommendation, Connor. Well, we only have one more thing to talk about in this episode, and we're gonna give the floor to Kyle for a bit here, because this is completely out of nowhere, but it's just something that he mentioned.
We actually have 8 more things to talk about, Joey. So we're gonna have to condense this a little bit.
Okay, so Kyle, you mentioned to me and Connor recently that semi recently you have done a rewatch of the entire Harry Potter film series.
Yes, all 8 films.
So, do you have any insights to give us on these Harry Potter films?
Over half are bad. I guess I'll start with that.
Coming out of the gate strong. I like it.
Yeah. So, I don't know. Have you guys seen all of them, or at least some of them?
Some of them.
I watched every Harry Potter movie as they were coming out until I saw the 6th one, and I hated it so much that I was turned off from ever watching those movies ever again.
Yeah. So when I was a kid, I was a big Harry Potter kid. I watched the first 3 movies, I think. And then for whatever reason, I was done with Harry Potter, so I didn't care anymore.
Sure.
And then I finished the series at some point, and I had no opinion on them. They were all kind of weird. And now, 10 years later, whatever it is, after watching them all, I can say my opinion is exactly the same. The first 3 movies are all charming. They have their moments. It's a nice fantasy thing. But then I don't know, I guess there's a break between 3 and 4, and Daniel Radcliffe grew 6 feet. And
oh yeah.
From there, it just looks like an adult in this kid's world doing kids stuff, and it kind of ruins the illusion. And then, so the fourth movie is has its moments. It's okay. 5th movie, nothing happens. It's just.
So I think I remember that about the 5th book. So I remember I watched the first 4 movies. I didn't read the books. I know everybody back then was reading the books, and I liked the first. I think I remember liking the 3rd Harry Potter movie.
Yes.
And thinking this is a pretty good one. I think that's my favorite one.
Everybody likes that one because that was directed by Alfonso Cuarón. So
okay. All right. I didn't, but at that time I didn't. Right. I didn't know who the director was at that point when however old I was watching it. I just remember I liked that one, and I liked the first 2 because at least the first one. I like the music a lot.
Oh yeah,
I think the music is really the music is iconic. Music. Yeah. Okay. The music is iconic. Watch the 4th one. I remember that one felt like it went too fast because there was so much happening in it.
Yeah, it turned an 800-page book into a 2-hour movie.
Yeah,
right.
It just doesn't work.
And everybody who at that point was always telling you the 4th book is the big one because there's some tournament. And I am not a Harry Potter person, but this is
Triwizard Cup or whatever.
That's it. Yeah,
there you go.
So that was supposed to be the really good one. So then I start reading the 5th book. I get halfway through and I couldn't do it anymore. They're not at the school yet. It's so boring. Nothing's happening. For a whole huge chunk of the book, Harry's on trial for using magic to save his family, and I'm like, this is ridiculous.
The 5th book / movie is just the filler arc of the Harry Potter movies.
A little bit, yeah. Because I remember that.
It's just setting up to future stuff. They barely reference stuff that happened in the last movie. But anyway, so then after that movie's kind of boring. The 6th movie is really bad.
I hated it so much.
It's honestly one of the worst movies I've ever seen. And part of this could be because one time I got food poisoning when I watched it, but that,
Oh.
that's got nothing to do with it.
This is not the first. That's not the first time it's happened to you, where you get food poisoning and watch a movie.
Well, the other time that I remember Kyle getting food poisoning was when we watched Collateral Beauty.
Yes.
It was-
So-
Somehow like my stomach's telling me not to watch these movies, but I persevere and I watch them just feeling awful the entire time. And then, the last 2 movies, whatever, Deathly Hollows, they're not that bad. But it's so weird how this was like cinematic universe stuff. So it's just like they have what is it? There's 8 movies and 6 different directors.
Yeah.
And it's just, I feel like these movies could have been really good if just the same guy was like, I'm just going to make all these. I'll keep the ideas throughout each movie. But instead they feel so disjointed at a certain point, and it stops being magical and starts just being confusing.
And there's
it's just a mess.
I remember there being a vibe of just general going through the motions. At some point,
there's a lot of that.
They established some kind of house style, basically like a TV show, and then whatever directors they brought in were pretty much just following the playbook to make the Harry Potter movie the way that most people would expect it to be made, right? Whereas people love that third one. Again, that's I'm sure Alfonso Cuarón didn't have as much creative control over that as one of his actual films, but it still has that kind of oomph to it, where it felt very distinct from the first 2, which were more childlike wonder. The third one had kind of that, but with a little bit of a more subversive, kind of darker edge. So it had more stuff going for it. And then after that, it was all of them were kind of doing that, but the really kind of budget version of it. Or it's a little bit less. I don't know.
One reason why the Lord of the Rings movies are so successful is because Peter Jackson, adapted the books into films. He knew what he was going to keep, what he was going to change, do all that stuff. But in the Harry Potter movies, it's oh, I guess in this book, this character's a thing. In this book, this character doesn't exist.
Yeah, that's right.
It's a big mess. It feels like each director was just trying to be okay, I'm going to make this how I think it should be, instead of a joint effort to make a beloved series into movies.
Yeah, that is interesting, actually, because I definitely remember that where there'd be characters that were prominent in some movies that were just completely absent in the other ones, and it's just because it's they took each book on a case-by-case basis. So it kind of got a little wonky.
I think one of the side characters changes their race in one of the movies. It's just such a mess.
That actually sounds familiar. Yeah, there's something wild like that.
There's so little continuity between them. It just it doesn't feel good.
Yeah, well,
but there are some moments throughout. They're not all awful. It's just
I think the general world of Harry Potter is a pretty creative and well realized one.
Yeah.
So there's always going to be some good stuff in there. But I don't know. That to me, Harry Potter is that was a 2000s thing, and now we're in the 2020s, I have moved on with my life, and I will not revisit Harry Potter. I think that it's perfectly acceptable for the Harry Potter phenomenon to remain in the 2000s.
I don't think Harry Potter will be big for future generations.
Yeah, it's the kind of thing that was really big for millennials growing up, and I don't think anybody else is really going to get it.
But they're still gonna try, because
of course they're gonna try.
Beasts, and they made a Broadway play sequel. J.K. Rowling is still stirring up all sorts of trouble.
Yes, that she is.
So, yep.
Yeah. Well, yeah. What can I say? It's not for me. I wash my hands of Harry Potter. I'm washing my hands a lot today.
So much hand washing today.
Which is good, because we are
clean
still.
Hands.
It is still a pandemic. You should wash your hands.
It's true. It's very true. Yes.
At all times.
Remember to wear a mask. Be good. Follow the rules.
Yes.
And all that stuff. And all right, everybody. You have a good morning. We'll see you next time.